Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing 3 films I would personally add to the Arrow video collection if I could, if I had my choice. And I wanted to just share a little bit of my criteria before I get started as sort of how I develop my thought process for what I would include. Did the film or does the film have like a camp value, cult, that kind of thing? Is it sort of a narrow interest? Is it something that I think fits with other Arrow video movies? Is it entertaining? At least in part. I know some of the Arrow video films I have will be entertaining for a little bit and have some lulls in the action, but for the most part, is it entertaining? Does it tell us something about the time period in which it was created? In other words, do I know, which I have some 90s movies in here, do I know it's like of the 90s? And do I think it gives a 90s vibe, that kind of thing? And also, in the case of all 3 of these, I feel like they sort of preserve a piece of media that could be lost or that doesn't have the best restoration. And the very first of these films that I thought of, and I've loved this film forever. It was a TV miniseries, and much like, the All That Haunts Me Hours, sometimes those packages have taken TV series and they've sort of called it a film and they put it in their collections. This is called Merlin. This is from 1998, starring Sam Neill in one of his really good roles that a lot of people that didn't watch TV at the time probably don't know about. And the film follows his life as Merlin on into his adventures with King Arthur, and that's part of the story as well. It has kind of a big cast for a made-for-TV movie. So, notably, you get Martin Short as this like magic gnome person thing. You get Helena Bonham Carter as Morgan Le Fay, and she's kind of a typical Helena Bonham Carter character. I think you'll probably like her. One of the strongest performances that's not Sam Neill is from Isabella Rossellini, who plays Nimue, his love interest, and their scenes are really spectacular, I think, in terms of their chemistry. You also have James Earl Jones voicing the Rock of Ages. You have some others that come in there as well. A young Lena Headey is in there from Game of Thrones. You even have the actor who played Mercutio in the Criterion Collection's version of Romeo and Juliet, John McHenry. I really like him in that film, and he's in here as well. You get Rutger Hauer in there at a good role that I'll save for you if you ever choose to watch this thing. The weakest, well, I don't know if you call her the weakest role, because in some ways Miranda Richardson, being the foil or antagonist to Sam Neill as Queen Mab, she's cheesy, over the top, and she's kind of got an annoying, obnoxious voice, and she feels a little bit like something plucked right out of a fairy tale. And because the special effects and low production are so bad in the film, it feels like something you could put together with your friends. Like, you and your friends are going to play wizard, and here's your story that you're sharing in together. And certainly, as a kid growing up in the 90s, that was actually sort of welcome. And it feels to me like a film that Arrow could pick up and popularize, especially since Sam Neill is such an accomplished actor who I think overlaps with a lot of the kind of films that Arrow fans like. For example, I'm sure that many people who like the label Arrow Video probably like the film Possession that he does a good job in. So, I don't know, just a thought. I think it has some of that late 90s innocence to it that we lost somewhere along the way in the 2000s. You're going to feel that. And it's just a really charming movie, especially, Sam Neill riding in on a horse, like he's Link from the Ocarina of Time or something in those opening minutes of that video game. I like it. It's cheesy, for sure, but it's enjoyable. The second film, I'm less confident in, just because it's not the best film I'll ever recommend in here. There's some issues. It's really cornball. I don't know. I liked it. It's one of those films I'm just going to throw out that I liked it. Okay? And I'm surprised how many other people online do. People love it or hate it. When I was researching this, it's called Surf Ninjas. It's from 1993. I'm going to read you the synopsis of the plot. Okay? If you've never heard of Surf Ninjas. Plot. 2 Asian American surfer dude brothers discover They are the long lost princes from a China Sea island. And part of this inheritance, get this, part of this inheritance includes magically induced martial arts prowess and being able to see the future. So they use these new powers to overthrow the island's current dictator, a despotic madman with a metal face. Leslie Nielsen, I believe that's his role there. Leslie Nielsen's great in this. He really hams it up. And given current authoritarian tendencies across the world, I think it's especially fun to see what 90s people would have, how they would have felt about that kind of a leader in the past. And the whole thing does feel very 90s. In fact, if you watch the trailer, it's just full of like catchphrases from the 90s. Some of them I haven't heard in forever, but there is also the inclusion of a Sega Genesis Game Gear, and it's used sort of like creatively in the plot, and I think it makes the movie more fun. It lightens the tone, and the tone is very light. The fight scenes, like they kind of alternate, because sometimes there's like actual good looking martial arts, and then sometimes it's completely ridiculous and just, you know, the lowest form of comedy. But I don't know, it's like you took Baywatch and you threw that in there a little bit, and you took Ninja Gaiden and you threw that in there a little bit, and you took Power Rangers and you meshed it all up, and you sort of made your own 90s time capsule of a film. And this was like, you know how now we have like too much of that, where we just shove a bunch of genres together and try to make a really corporate product? It doesn't have that vibe. It's unique, it's fun, it's corny, it's enjoyable. I think it would be a good addition. And I've only found like VHS and DVD copies online, so I don't know, something I liked. Haven't seen it in a long time. I saw it with a friend many years ago who said, "You're going to love this." I said, "Whatever, I don't believe you." And I really enjoyed it. So, Surf Ninjas. And the third film is a Western, and that I'm going to recommend here, and it is not even close to these two. It's a 40s Western. It's called South of St. Louis from 1949. Now, Arrow has been releasing a number of Westerns. They have recently, fairly recently, released The Tin Star, which is a better movie than South of St. Louis. It's a really great Western, but I kind of feel like looking at what they've released in terms of Westerns, this might be up their alley, in theory, in my little world where I release a Western that I want to. So this story, it's kind of a muddled, difficult sort of plot for a short Western, but basically there are these three partners. They have a ranch. The ranch is destroyed, and this intersects in some ways with the Civil War, without spoilers. And they will have to join in efforts with the Confederacy. Maybe it's kind of, you know, there's some gun smuggling. Like, some of the ways that it treats the Civil War, I think, are a product of the 1940s. And it's a fascinating piece of history, if nothing else, to see how a director in that time period might have approached the subject matter. And that alone, I think, gives it that niche category worth exploring for something like Arrow. I think it just works well there. The best part of the film that isn't the gunfighting and so forth is probably, well, yeah, there's a character played by Alexis Smith, who was an actress who would much later be in Martin Scorsese's Age of Innocence, but she plays this character called Bruges. She's an attractive woman who works in a lounge, and she has a little bit of something going on with Joel McCrea, who's the star of this film, and she's probably the best part of the movie, although I think he's a pretty good actor. He was in movies like Wichita, a few others. He was a sort of a Western actor that I think maybe we've lost a little bit by the wayside, and I'm hoping that some of these labels will repopularize him. I know that, we kind of did that with the Western collection, the Renowned Westerns with Randolph Scott. I'm hoping that maybe there's some more of his stuff sort of makes it back into at least the minds of physical media collectors. Again, I want to emphasize that there are parts of the plot that you might find to be problematic, but I think that makes it sort of interesting to look at through the lens of today. And it's kind of entertaining sometimes. Sometimes it's kind of slow, but it's a Western a lot of people probably haven't heard of, and I think it's sort of a neat one. So I would add that to the collection as well. So these were my three picks of ones that I would like to see in the Arrow video collection. and I felt like at least one of these somebody hadn't heard of and they'd be worth sharing. If you liked the video and you found it to be helpful or interesting or anything like that, and you want to help grow the channel by clicking that like button, that would be helpful. Also, let me know a movie you would add to the Arrow video collection that you think sort of falls along these lines in the comments. That would be awesome. Or your thoughts about these films if you've seen any of them would be great too. And consider subscribing if you haven't. I cover, Westerns, Criterions, lots of different movie related stuff. And yeah, we'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.